Jim the Ape Want Proof. Hello again, humans. It is I, Jim the Ape, and today I wanted to step outside my comfort zone and do a video about politics. But not practical, on-the-ground type politics, more of a broad analysis of the Democratic Party and where it's headed. Now, it's already been said that the modern far left and their childish behavior is what lost them the 2016 presidential election. I would have said that too if my computer hadn't shit the bed, but that's besides the point. But it's true that if Trump winning has taught us anything, it's that people are getting sick of the crybaby authoritarianism of so-called social justice advocates. It comes as no surprise when the go-to defense of said people is to just call their opponents racists, sexists, or some other kind of bigots. Inevitably, people just go, "No, I'm not, you're a moron," and stop taking you seriously. But this results in a bigger problem that I wanted to address in a video, and that is that it turns the Democratic Party into a fucking joke. And that's a problem for me because while I don't like the false dichotomy of two-party politics, most of my views are liberal in nature. Of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the corruption at the top. Whether you love or hate Bernie Sanders, there are few who dare to deny that Hillary Clinton and the DNC chair conspired to screw him out of the nomination and to anoint Hillary the chosen one. The evidence came out among the infamous Podesta emails, and I'm kind of too lazy to find and present it, but it's been well covered by other YouTubers, and I'm sure it's not too hard to find if you just Google it. But the purpose of this video is more to point out how the citizens that represent liberalism in the open marketplace of ideas have been tarnishing the reputation of the party by being increasingly more extreme and idiotic. Part of that is my subjective opinion, of course, but there has been a rise in far-left ideology in academia, which inherently shapes the minds of young people. Of course, I like to make fun of things like gender studies degrees and university safe spaces, as do many others. But these little things are symptomatic of a larger issue. Now, if you break it down, liberal ideas tend to be based on things like tolerance, freedom, fair treatment, and other similarly positive sentiments. But such agreeable ideals become less so when you go about them in the wrong way. For example, in trying to protect people from the horrors of racism, people on the left have begun calling the slightest ill word, or even just a perceived ill thought against a non-white person, racist. Meanwhile, they use history and mental gymnastics to twist definitions so that they can justify anything said or done against white people because buzzwords like systemic and institutional and my prejudice plus power. So in other words, their attempts to be tolerant and accommodating to one group of people leads them to being vile, hateful little bigots towards another. You could say they do the same with women and men, gay people and straight people, trans people and normal people, and maybe to a lesser extent Muslims and Christians. Another example of the far left metaphorically shooting itself in the face came after Trump won the election. They started talking about how LGBT people are now scared that they're going to lose their rights, how little Mexican children are afraid that their parents are going to be deported to the other side of a giant wall, and how women are afraid that their reproductive rights are going to be replaced by mandatory pussy grabs or some shit. And my response to that is simple. Fear is not an argument. It's entirely subjective, and what you're scared of can easily turn out to not be based in any part of reality whatsoever. You could be afraid that if you leave your house, you'll be burned to death by the fiery breath of a giant scaly winged monster, but until you have evidence, that doesn't mean dragons exist. So like we do with any other new president, let's just wait and see. It's all we really can do, honestly. But I think what it all really boils down to in determining the problem with modern Democrats is the way that they respond to criticism, dissenting opinions, and things they disagree with. There are way too many examples to list in one video, but to make a long story short, liberals now have a disturbing tendency to try and silence people who criticize their ideology by trying to get them fired. They protest opposing viewpoints not peacefully or respectfully, but in bombastic, obnoxious, and often non-obstructionary ways, shutting down or censoring the dialogue entirely. They also avoid debate by blocking people on social media by the truckload, and rarely, if ever, make response videos to content creators like me, preferring instead to stay inside a soundproof echo chamber of their pre-existing biases and beliefs. Not to mention the violence committed against Trump supporters, the rioting after his victory, and the faking of attacks to blame on Trump supporters. So yeah, all of that in a nutshell basically amounts to modern-day liberals acting like spoiled little brats and throwing infantile temper tantrums being the primary cause of the Democratic Party losing political power as well as popular support. As for solutions, I don't really know what we should do, and I won't claim to have all the answers, but I do think that we need to have a kind of alt-left. Not necessarily identical or even similar to the alt-right, since, if I'm being honest, I don't know much about that with any certainty. But there needs to be a grassroots liberal movement that is anti-corruption, anti-censorship, pro-freedom of speech, including conservative views, pro-LGBT rights, pro-reproductive rights for women and men, hopefully, and would not be prone to calling dissenters bigots. I'm sure there are other qualities that I would like to see in this hypothetical political movement, but I think most of you probably get the idea. We need to clean the ideology and the knee-jerk, hypocritical, doublethink bigotry out of mainstream liberalism and restore the Democratic Party to what it's supposed to stand for: individual rights and freedoms, rather than collectivist Marxism masquerading as altruism. So that's my layman's analysis of why the Democratic Party is a fucking joke now. What do you think? I'm sure there are lots of examples I missed, which you're more than welcome to list in the comments. Also, how did I do in my pseudo-political pundit analysis? Do you think I should do more videos like this in the future? If so, you can tell me in a comment and/or give this video a thumbs up. You can give it a thumbs down if you think I'm a moron who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Subscribe if you haven't already and enjoy my content. Of course, you can follow me on various social media outlets, links in the description. And with my recent technical issues that I'm still trying to fix, any new Patreon patrons would be greatly appreciated. As always, thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time. Stay great, apes. Every breath you take, and every noise you make, every time you break, and when you sound fake, it will be cut out. When it's just too long, and when the wording's wrong. When you're no King Kong, you end with a song that should be cut out.